Welcome to Beneath the Bible, where we're helping you dig deeper and uncover the world beneath the sacred book. Halloween is around the corner, and so we're entering a season filled with ghouls, goblins, and creatures that depict images of evil. The most popular image of evil is the devil, or Satan. Now, in popular culture, this figure has taken many forms, from harmless cartoon characters to the grotesque depictions seen in horror movies. But in all cases, Satan is viewed as evil, and a number of things have become associated with Satan and thus themselves are viewed as evil. Now, arguably one of the most famous symbols associated with evil is the number 666. It's featured in art, in music, in movies for its devilish reputation. Now, this number is also known, especially to Christians, as the number or mark of the beast from Revelation. This mark has become associated with the epitome of evil, and those who have the mark are connected with it. The idea of being marked by evil has led to a fascination with identifying the mark in modern society, so as to avoid it, or for some, to embrace it. Such identifications have led some to associate this mark with things like Social Security cards, QR codes, UPC barcodes, and most recently, the COVID-19 vaccine. But what does this enigmatic number or mark actually refer to? Is it something in the past, in the present, or in the future? In this episode, we're going to look at the number of the beast in the book of Revelation within its ancient context. And we won't be able to cover all aspects of this topic, but we'll provide some context that we think is important for understanding the text. Our aim in this episode is to introduce the topic and to provide some context to aid in our understanding of this passage. Now, we recognize that this topic is challenging and is open to a number of different interpretations. The use of any one approach does not necessarily rule out preference for a different approach. Rather, we hope that this episode will spark engagement and conversation regarding this difficult passage. In the book of Revelation, in chapter 13, the author describes two beasts who appear on earth to blaspheme God, oppress the saints, and insist on conformity to idolatrous practices. The first beast is described as coming out of the sea with 7 heads and having 10 diadems on its horns. It looks like a leopard, has the feet of a bear, and the mouth of a lion. It's described as being granted great power and authority and receiving worship from all the inhabitants of the world. Now, as interesting as this beast sounds, our focus today is actually on the second beast in this text. Beginning in verse 11, the author describes a second beast that arose out of the earth. This beast has 2 horns, similar to a lamb, and it has the voice of a dragon. It has all the power and authority of the first beast, but its function is to make those living on earth worship not itself, but the first beast. It's described as performing many great signs that deceive those on earth, having them make an image of the beast, and for those who do not worship, they are killed. Then we read about the action of this second beast that we're interested in today. He required everyone, small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to be given a mark on the right hand and on the forehead. And no one could buy or sell anything without that mark, which was either the name of the beast or the number representing his name. Wisdom is needed here. Let the one with understanding solve the meaning of the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. His number is 666. So what makes this second beast so interesting, and why we're discussing it today, is that the author ends this discussion in this section with this riddle. Now, this riddle calls for those listening or reading to use wisdom and the mind of understanding in regards to this beast. The author implores those with understanding to calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a person or a man. The author then gives the number, 666. The author seems to be inviting readers to identify the meaning of the riddle and the person that it points to. Now, readers from antiquity to the present have found this riddle both intriguing and challenging to interpret. Part of the challenge is figuring out how these beasts are related to the dragon mentioned in Revelation 12, which discusses a dragon that is commonly associated with evil, that is, the devil or Satan. It is this dragon that gives power and authority to the beasts in chapter 13. The first beast has most commonly been associated with a human figure who is granted the power of the devil. This figure has come to be known as the Antichrist. The Antichrist is in opposition to God and will lead people away from God toward evil. The figure associated with the Antichrist has been interpreted as a historical figure, as a representation of evil incarnate, or even as a future evil person who is to come into the world at the end of times. The second beast also receives its power from the dragon, but this beast seems to function more like a prophet that serves the first beast and the dragon. It is this beast that the riddle refers to. So then, who or what is this mark that identifies the beast? To better understand this issue, we're going to follow the framework of Craig Koester, whom we believe outlines the issue well, as we examine three aspects that we believe are fundamental to understanding this riddle. First, we'll examine an important textual variant in ancient texts that reads 616 instead of 666. Second, we'll examine two prominent methods used to interpret the number. And lastly, even when interpreters agree on the text and the method, they may reach different conclusions about the solution to the riddle and who or what it's referring to. So we'll examine a few of those conclusions. One of our new team members, Dr. Lucas Grimsley, is going to walk us through them.
We're going to start with a possible textual issue when it comes to understanding what this number of the beast actually is. Greek, Latin, Hebrew, they all lack characters for numerals like we use today. So instead they assign numerical values to letters of the alphabet. Now this means that numbers can also be seen as wholes, as words, and words can have numerical values. We're familiar with Roman numerals being letters, and that idea really extends to these other languages as well. Most biblical translations render Revelation chapter 13:18 with the number 666. The number 666 in Revelation 13 is found in the majority of Greek manuscripts across various text types, as well as in manuscript versions written in Latin, Coptic, and Syriac. What is regarded as the best preserved text of Revelation, the Codex Alexandrinus, spells out the number 666 as well. Additionally, the Codex Sinaiticus, dating to the 4th century, spells out 666, while Papyrus 47, dating to the late 3rd century, uses the letters Chi, Psi, Sigma to signify the number 666. There's also a commentary dating to the 6th century that uses the same spelling as that of the Alexandrinus text. Even numerous church fathers such as Irenaeus, Hippolytus, and Andreas of Caesarea, amongst others, preferred the reading of the text with 666. So while there's a preponderance of evidence for this number being 666, this is not the only version of the number found in ancient texts. An alternative reading of this number gives 616. In the Codex Ephraimi, dating to the 5th century, the alternative number 616 is given. New Testament Papyrus 115, dating to the late 3rd or early 4th century, uses the letters Chi, Iota, Sigma to signify 616. What Papyrus 115 reveals is that during the 2nd century, the reading of 616 was used more widely than surviving manuscripts would suggest. It appears that ancient authors were well aware of this variant. We see that Irenaeus argued that the most approved ancient copies contain numbers 666, suggesting that the alternative version had circulated widely enough to be addressed. He claims that an error occurred by subtracting 50 from the middle number, and that this is not the preferred reading. So what do we make of all this? Well, scholarly attempts to understand this variant have led some to see it as a scribal error, while others see it as an intentional change. It is plausible that this variation arose accidentally in the copying process, in which the letter Psi could have been inadvertently changed to an iota or vice versa. Additionally, the change could have been made intentionally, since it appears that the author had a penchant for symmetrical numbers like 144,000, which is based on 12 squared. Some argue that the copyist could have changed the number intentionally to fit this type of pattern. Despite the evidence for this alternative version, most scholars hold that the better reading is still 666. Not only is this supported by the breadth of its attestation across text types, but many scholars also argue that within the literary context of Revelation, there is a clear contrast between the followers of the beast and those of the Lamb. Now, while the followers of the beast receive this number on their foreheads and their right hand, the subsequent verse claims that the followers of the Lamb have his name and the Father's name on their foreheads. The lamb's followers equal 144,000, while the number of the beast is 666. This number is based on half of 12, which is 6, and the 60s are multiplied by 10 and 100 instead of 1,000. The impression is that being marked with the beast's number is a debased alternative of the lamb's 144,000. If this is the case, then 666 stands as the strongest option for the original reading.
In this passage, the writer refers to the number of the beast as the key to the riddle. The author challenges those who understand or who have a mind to calculate the number. Therefore, the number is critical to understanding the meaning. Why does the author use this literary device in his writing? Well, to understand this, we must look at the purpose of a riddle and its function within literary texts. A riddle is designed to intentionally challenge people to solve a puzzling question. The subject matter of the riddle needs to be familiar enough for the reader to have a chance at guessing the solution. In the case of Revelation 13, the number 666 must be familiar enough for those reading it to solve the riddle using this clue. The challenge for us is that we are so far removed from the ancient context that what may have been familiar to them is not as clear to us. So then, how do we interpret the number? There have been various methods used to interpret the numbers in this riddle, but for the sake of introducing this topic, we're only going to focus on two common approaches: the use of symbolic meaning and gematria. Now, the most common symbolic meaning of 666 in the case of Revelation is to take the number 6 as symbolic of humankind. And since Genesis says humankind was created on the sixth day, and the number of the beast is 666, this number then symbolizes fallen humanity. The number falls short of perfection, which is the number 7, since God finished creation on the seventh day. Now, this leads some to interpret the number as a symbol that incorporates any evil human, individual, group, or even system. Now, while this interpretation is appealing, and there's probably a grain of truth to it, most scholars believe that the method of gematria better fits the context. Gematria is the practice of assigning a numerical value to a word or phrase by giving each letter a number and adding together the values of the individual letters. Now, this process works in both Greek and Hebrew, in which the letters of the alphabet can also serve as numerals. Within the context of Revelation, the numerical value in the riddle is used to direct readers to understand something the author already knows. The assumption by the author is that at least some readers will be able to figure out the meaning if they have the mind to do so. And since the riddle provides all the information needed to solve it, the author is challenging the readers to show they understand the riddle by solving it. Since the key to the riddle is the numerical value, the author clearly is playing on the numerical value of words. It's this connection that leads many to see the use of gematria in this text.
Scholars also note that within ancient riddles, jokes, and games, gematria is common practice. One example of this is found in the apocalyptic text that lists Roman rulers with well-known aspects of their reigns, and then gives the numerical values of their first initial. One has the first initial of 10, that is Alpha for Augustus, and hands the power to another with the initial 300, Tau for Tiberius. As a political joke, Suetonius indicates that the name Nero and the phrase killed his own mother have the same numerical value 1005 when written in Greek. Now, this was pertinent because it was rumored that the emperor had murdered his mother. In Judaism and Christianity, gematria could provide a basis for religious symbolism. Rabbis noted that Eliezer, the name of Abraham's favored servant, has a numerical value of 318, which is the total number of servants mentioned in Genesis 14:14. Thus, Eliezer was the equal of all the rest of the servants combined. Now, this also goes into the New Testament. The Gospel of Matthew plays numerical games as well. In the genealogy of Jesus, the author arranges the names so that they fall into three sets of four 10 generations. Matthew believes Jesus is the Messiah, and the Messiah is the son of David, and the name David can be written with Hebrew letters that also served as numerals. So the number has messianic significance, and the Messiah was to be the son of David. An early Christian text also can be read, "The Son of the great God will come, incarnate, likened to the mortal men on earth, with a name equaling 888. In this text, the author recognizes that the Greek letters and the name of Jesus add up to 888, and that the clues given will allow readers to recognize who he is referring to. In the case of the riddle in Revelation 13, the author plays on the numerical value of words. In the context of this passage, the author wants the reader to discern certain traits of a person within a wider context and look for a name that fits that trait and then count or calculate their name. Even though most scholars agree on this methodology, the result of who the riddle points to has different positions. Some think this reference is to a past figure, while others a future figure, and some even think it stands for any number of people who are this type of person. So what does archaeology have to say about the identity of the beast? Throughout history, many have sought to determine who bears the mark of the beast. In the 2nd century, Irenaeus warned the church to be wary of anyone named Evanthus, Latinus, or Tatan, because the letters of those names in the Greek equal 666. In the 13th century, some Franciscans noted that the Greek name of Pope Benedict XI, Benedictos, also equaled the fateful number. Even today, people still try to determine who might bear the mark of the beast. And the possibilities people name today are too numerous and too wide for us to review here, but we promise that there are a lot, and some of them are very interesting. However, here at Beneath the Bible, we believe that regardless of whether you think the number represents a past person, a type of person, or even a future figure, the author is speaking to a 1st century audience and challenges the readers to calculate the number of the beast's name within that historical period. Therefore, readers must look for some way of spelling the name of the number in the ancient context. But the author does not leave them high and dry. Clues are given that will help the reader theorize the name of the beast. The allusions given in the description of the beast are designated to point the readers in the direction of solving the riddle. Scholars have recognized that many of the allusions of the beast can be applied to various Roman emperors. The beast is said to wield authority over all people and nations. The blasphemous names given to the beast, God, Son of God, and Lord and God, mixed with public worship of the beast, is suggestive of the titles given to Roman emperors and their imperial cult. Further evidence of this connection of the beast to Roman emperors is found in Revelation chapter 17, which states that the beast's 7 heads represent the 7 hills on which the city that the rulers of the world is built. Now, this allusion is no doubt referring to Rome, which was also built on 7 hills. So if this is referring to a Roman emperor, which emperor does the riddle refer to? Many scholars have noted that some descriptions of the beast are especially reminiscent of the Emperor Nero. The beast is said to have received a mortal wound to its head by a sword and yet to be alive. Nero is said to have committed suicide with a dagger to his throat, yet rumors continued to spread that he was alive and would return. Nero was also known for his persecution of Christians and was called a beast. Some even thought he would come back as the embodiment of Satan himself. Later in chapter 17, the author states that the beast burns the prostitute, who is commonly interpreted as Rome itself. The same charge was leveled against Nero, who was implicated in a fire that destroyed a large portion of Rome. Now, these allusions in and of themselves really are not enough, however, to identify the name of the beast. The author also seems to challenge the readers to calculate the number of the beast's name based on clues given. Now, since Nero seems to fit the clues, what readers would need to do is look for some way of spelling Nero's name that would have the letters needed to yield the correct numerical total. If Greek letters are used, the name Nero has a numerical value of 1005. However, when Nero Caesar is written in Hebrew letters, it does equal the requisite 666. So the use of Hebrew letters could also explain the discrepancy between 666 in most texts and 616 in others. In Latin, the name is written Nero rather than Neron as in Greek, so it lacks the final N. And in Hebrew transliteration, the letter Nun has a value of 50. So subtracting 50 from 666 equals 616, thus allowing for Nero to fit both textual traditions, depending on whether the translator was transliterating the name Nero from Greek or Latin. However, not everyone finds Nero to be a plausible solution to the riddle. Some scholars suggest the Emperor Claudius as the name of the beast. His name can be made to equal 666 by adjusting the spelling and using Roman numerals. Others propose Vespasian, who helped to end the Jewish revolt against Rome by abbreviating and transliterating his name into Hebrew. Nerva has a name that can be made to fit the number, but nothing about his reputation suggests that he is beast-like. Probably the most accepted alternative to Nero is Domitian, who is seen as a Nero-like figure. However, his name only fits the number when a complex series of abbreviations are used for his name and title. One such abbreviation that adds up to 666 sometimes appears on Greek coins, so that lends some credence to this theory if this abbreviation was in circulation at this time. Furthermore, a Roman coin shows the Emperor Domitian enthroned upon the earth with 7 stars circling his open hands and an inscription reading, "To the Divine Caesar." This image is similar to the presentation of Jesus in Revelation as the divine ruler who holds the 7 stars in his hand. Some have questioned whether the early readers of Revelation would have been able to calculate the number of the beast using Hebrew letters since the book was written in Greek. On 2 occasions, though, in Revelation, the author transliterates Hebrew names into Greek characters. The question is whether the author could expect his readers to be able to convert these names back to Hebrew in order to solve the riddle. Inscriptions at Sardis suggest this is possible. Some inscriptions found in the remains of the city's largest synagogue, dating to the 3rd century, have Hebrew inscriptions, despite Greek being the dominant language. One inscription is a Hebrew transliteration of the Latin name Severus. Another example is the use of Hebrew in graffiti. The letters appear on stone found in a fill. Now this shows that Hebrew was being used by diaspora Jews even outside of formal synagogue dedications. Another question some scholars pose about the use of Hebrew transliteration for the solution to the riddle has to do with the spelling of the title Caesar. The number 666 requires a specific spelling. However, in the Talmud, an additional yod is added to the title. That longer spelling produces a value of 676, not the 666 given in Revelation. However, the shorter spelling of the title is better attested in the ancient sources. At Dura Europos, an inscription on the tiles in the synagogue has the names of those who contributed to the renovation of the building in both Greek and Aramaic. One inscription written in Aramaic dating to about 244-245 AD has the transliteration of Caesar in the opening section, where the date of the renovation is given. Notice how in this inscription it shows the shorter spelling of the imperial title Caesar in a synagogue. There are even more examples that support this practice found in papyri from Marabaat and Ketef Jericho. Scholars have noted how these papyri connect the transliteration of the imperial title to matters of commerce or finance. A promissory note from Marabaat that dates from the reign of Nero, written in Aramaic, uses the full name and title Nero Caesar, which corresponds to the number 666 in Revelation. Similar Jewish promissory notes have been found at Elephatine and elsewhere among the Dead Sea Scrolls and rabbinic texts. Most of these contain the date of the financial transaction with the name and the title of the emperor, adding support for its usage. The text from Ketef Jericho shows a similar pattern. It supports the evidential base for the shorter spelling of the imperial title in commercial documents from the late 1st and early 2nd centuries AD. The text is fragmentary, but the name is certain. In the title, Caesar, there is a lacuna after the samek, but it is clear that the word is spelled like you see on the screen. and it does not use the additional yod that is found in the Talmud. This evidence suggests that a riddle involving an emperor's name and title would be appropriate in the late 1st century AD in a context where people are buying and selling as Revelation suggests. This evidence, combined with the description of the beast's actions and the numerical value of the name, suggests Nero Caesar is a likely candidate in which the number 666 refers, with Domitian a good second possibility. So with all this evidence, what can we say about the number of the beast and how to understand it today?
So, what can we say about this number of the beast and how we should interpret it today? Well, I think it's important for us to start with understanding the meaning of this number within its original context, which is what we've tried to do so far. Within that context, it seems fairly clear that the number and the description of the beast are referring to a Roman emperor, with Nero as the most likely candidate, and Domitian also a strong possibility. In fact, I think there's a good possibility that the author of Revelation wrote in such a way that this riddle may refer to both Nero and Domitian. Nero certainly had a beastly reputation, and some of the unique details, like the head of the beast with the mortal wound that came back to life, seem to refer uniquely to Nero. The best evidence for the composition date of Revelation is during the reign of Domitian, when the persecution of Christians was on the rise. John of Patmos was among those who had run afoul of the empire, being exiled to the island where he wrote this book. Now, as we've seen, both emperors' names fit the number 666 without too much fuzzy math. The nature of apocalyptic literature, like Revelation, is to have multiple meanings. So I don't think it's a problem to equate more than one figure with the number of the beast, even within the book's original context. Now, another dimension of apocalyptic literature is that it helps readers interpret the present in light of their expectations for the future. Now, this is true of Revelation as well as Old Testament books of apocalypse like Ezekiel, along with apocalyptic literature beyond the Bible. Now, that means these books have enduring meaning not only for their original readers, but for us when we read them today as people of faith. How we go about finding that meaning, however, is a matter of contention. So I'll just share how I approach things like the number of the beast. Now, I think the specific reference for this number were in the author's time and place. Nero, Domitian, both, or someone else. I think there's plenty of evidence that this is who John of Patmos had in mind when he was writing, and we can leave those specific clues to the time and place of the book's writing. Now, I know there are a lot of people who disagree with me on that, but I think it's a fruitless exercise to try to equate the number of the beast with anyone living today. I find that people end up twisting their interpretation to fit whoever they want to condemn, and that approach does a lot more harm than good. However, I think there's still significant meaning to this passage of Revelation that comes from interpreting our present situation in light of future reality. The overarching theme of Revelation is the triumph of God's kingdom over evil, suffering, and death, and the eternal reign of Jesus at the end of history. And we can look around at the world today and know we're not there yet. But as followers of Jesus, we hope for and expect this ultimate victory to one day arrive. We see in Revelation that the kingdom of God is opposed to the forces of evil and the kingdoms of the world, represented by the dragon, the beasts, and other figures in the book. Those realities are still with us, though their names change throughout history. Revelation, then, is a reminder that for Christians, we must remain loyal to the ever-present and ever-coming kingdom of God, not to the powers and principalities. We're all tempted to divide our loyalty and exchange our faithfulness to God's kingdom for worldly power and authority. But Revelation 13 calls that what it is: idolatry. The rulers and the powers of this world will demand our absolute loyalty, but we're called to stand apart from them and point the way to another, better kingdom that is not of this world. That kingdom is a reality far better than any this world can provide. And while the kingdoms of this world will pass away, God's kingdom will remain forever. Thanks for joining us for this Beneath the Bible video. If you're interested in learning more about this topic, we've included some references and resources in the description below. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more content like it, be sure to subscribe and check out some of our other Halloween-themed videos, like The Witch of Endor and the figures of Lilith and Azazel. You can also check out our website, BeneaththeBible.com, and follow us on social media at BeneaththeBible. If you learned something new today, take a minute to share this video with your friends. And until next time, keep digging.